as we all know, we never get pregnant. When we want to get pregnant, it's always, oops, I think I'm pregnant.
And you don't consult.
Exactly.
Nobody consults. And so there are programs. We do not work on that yet, but other organizations that I know work on malnutrition, they do work on teenagers to just make that happen at the proper time so that when they become mothers, they don't have that problem.
Now that we've talked about chronic malnutrition, what is malnutrition's burden and what are your solutions?
So I think I have touched upon my solutions before I talked about the problem. So, but to connect those, so the reason why there's malnutrition, so why it happens in these families, it's lack of knowledge also, you know. Many families, and it does not like determine your socioeconomic context because knowledge is lacking everywhere. And this topic, don't know what's good for their children. How to feed them. So I think the first solution that we think we're bringing there is to give access to that information, especially in areas and to people who don't have access by themselves, by reading books or by accessing the information on the internet. So our manuals are developed in local language. When it happens to work in areas where the people don't speak the language that we teach in, we always have a translator to make sure that the information is really accessed in the way they understand it. So that's the first one. The second one is to make sure that they have the income to make that possible, you know. Of course, we don't go from a basis where we tell them, well, what you have, you cannot do it. We tell them, with what you have, you can do something. Then to make it even more, you know, even better, if you have more income, it's better. So we work on the fact, because another underlying issue of malnutrition is obviously lack of access. So the lack of access is in two ways. Lack of access because I don't have enough money, but there is also lack of access because there isn't in the market, okay? So, you know, fortified foods, even snacks that are nutritious do not really exist, especially, again, in the urban settings. It's also like a double problem because on one side, there's a lack of knowledge. Then you have access to so many unuseful and unhealthy foods from all the kiosks, imported foods, things that make you think that it's good because they have a nice drawing of fruit on the bottle. So we always tell the mothers, please, you're giving poison to your child. Don't buy those things. So when we talk about access, it's economic empowerment, as I was saying earlier, but also more and more we're trying to create the access to these foods. So first we went through urban agriculture, where we help them develop an area where they grow their own food from what they can. So at least when they don't have the money to go buy, they can eat that. First, actually, we taught it in also economic empowerment. We thought they can eat what they can and then sell the rest. But actually, at the end of the day, there is no rest because they need it and they do use it, which is okay, actually. And the other way, we're actually starting this month to work on nutritious biscuits production with a social enterprise who has developed actually a very nutritious biscuit, but it has to be accessed by the communities that we address. So we're designing with them a way that they can increase their production with the support of the Australian Embassy. They increase their production, and at the same time we train a network of mothers who are going to distribute these biscuits in their areas and get a percentage of the sales price. So it has a double advantage of nourishing the community with actually nutritious foods that are tasty, and at the same time bring income to the mothers. Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It's a very hard. I don't want to say it's not hard. It just needs a very creative person, because unless you're creative to be able to address all these issues and be able to provide it to the community, I think I just have to say,
thank you. I'm happy you see it, because actually that's what's frustrating, because if you want to work on one stream, you feel like it's not going to be efficient. And as I was saying, we want to create something sustainable, you know. And also another problem working on nutrition, apart from the fact that it's a multifaceted issue, it's also the fact that you don't see the result right away. That's so frustrating. So with that frustration, we have to keep on keeping to make sure that those people, and in 20 years, we will know if that person really used it. So it's not an easy work on a day-to-day basis, but at least by listening seeing what's happening on the ground and bringing solutions to those issues that we see, we do hope that we're going to change something.
How can we change the low-income, vulnerable communities into sustainable communities?
The first thing is played in their mind. Exactly. You know, that mentality of I can is really, really, really crucial.
And I think that's the hard part. Because once you do that, the rest is history.
Yes, and that unfortunately that's what's when we started, I said something about you don't have to expect everybody that you worked on to be as strong and sustainable as you. That's what I was saying, because there are so many background. Yeah. You know, when you meet these families, we work with the women, right, with the mothers. They have gone through such a long life. So many things happen in their life. What we do might not be enough. And that's a hard reality that we have to work with. And fortunately also there are those who do use that opportunity. They just needed that little thing. They just needed you to go to that step. So those we stay longer, like the level 1, 2, 3 I told you about, are those who are able to finish the level 1, interested and motivated to keep on the level 2, and even go, you know, sustain that phase and get to the level 3. So to make those communities sustainable, the work has to be done by them. We had a training was about motivational skills. You know, it was a motivational training to bring life skills and also microfinancing and business-related training. And in the introduction, I was telling them, we can only do so much for you. We can bring you tools. We can bring you information, techniques that you might not know. But the rest relies on you.
Exactly.
Yes. And so the only way it really will be sustainable is to make them believe they can do it, to help them not depend on us. So in everything that we do, making sure that what we do doesn't make them dependent.
Exactly.
And that has to be intentional. You have to be intentional at every step to make sure that they are not depending on you to do what they do. So even like, for example, when we teach nutrition, back in the days, we used to have this small package of even the way we designed it, it was not to bring aid, but let me explain. So we know we're working in communities they don't have a lot of income. So we do cooking demonstration to show them how to prepare nutritious food for their babies. But we're well conscious that when they go home, they might not have the ingredients to do it right away. So we thought, without providing, you know, the macaroni and rice and everything that to make them feel they're receiving aid, let's just give them a sample. We call it actually try at home sample box. To give them boxes where, like, for example, if it's, I don't know, a porridge for baby with carrot and potatoes, it would have 1 potato, 1 or 2 carrots, 1 onion, whatever they need, you know? And even that was not, somehow it created, okay, we're going to go and get the training, and at the end, we're going to go back home with something to make food for lunch.
So it still made them dependent.
Still, not as much as full dependency, but still. So now we don't do that. We don't even do that anymore. So I do in the cooking demonstration, they do have access to the food they were preparing, and the kids eat there. So it creates a conviviality. We eat together, drink coffee, and all. But the takeaway at home has stopped because that. So you have to be intentional and look at your own programs and make sure that it's sustainable. And we're going to talk about that later, I think. But when I was talking about listen to the community, talk with them, and bring solutions, that's how you bring sustainability, because they tell you what they need. We don't know what they need. I know what I need for my own situation.
Exactly.
You know what you need in your own situation. Even our situation is not the same.
It's not
and
the same.
The person we talk to, it's the same thing. So listening to them and bringing solutions that are not donation and funding dependent for a long time. Of course, to start something, you need funding. But we have to design it in a way that it doesn't require that funding throughout the years to continue. So that's what makes it hard to design and hard to fund also, because it costs a lot at the beginning, and then it becomes sustainable, you know.
Like you said, we were going to my next question was the sustainability. How can a country have a sustainable poverty reduction?
Sustainable poverty reduction, we have to know that it has to be multi-sectorial. It can never be, like, we cannot say, let's work on education, we're going to solve poverty, you know? It has to be multifaceted. But what we have to, I think the one word is human capital, investing on the human capital. If we can have everything that we want, if the people are not there to utilize it, to make it grow, to innovate, to do all the things that it can sustain for thousands of years, what's the point? So I think the people is the center and has always to be the center of attention.
I always say that. I'm so glad you brought it up, because when we decided to have a train in the city of Addis, you know, it's always a question, okay, we still have issues with all the other public transportations. How educated are the people about going in and out of trains and all that? And I even got actually jammed. And after that, I never got onto the train because I also had my kids. You see, usually you wait for the people that are coming off the train before the other people come. But we don't operate like that. When the door opens, it's everybody pushes.
Oh, okay.
So the people that are trying to get out cannot get out. And I was in a situation where my daughter ended up staying in the train. So we just screamed and somehow pulled her out. So when we are developing as a country, if we don't educate the people that live in it, then it becomes kind of like useless.
That's why the plug and play, you know, like you cannot bring something, plug it here and expect it to work.
No.
Yes,
it's the same thing as I used to say about bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't know how to use the bathroom, there's no use putting a bathroom over here for me. I will pee right next to it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So education is really key.
Exactly.
To bring up a country, I think.
In a sustainable manner,
yes.
Indeed.
So my next question is, what are your challenges?
Oh. Do you have like 3 hours?
No.
Okay. So I think our challenges, so when you try to work in a sustainable manner, as I was saying earlier, it costs a lot of investment on the same people. Because I walked you through the way we work, and that actually costs us a lot in energy, in convincing, in everything. Because for us, we prefer to work on the same people, and like at the end of the day, have changed the life of hundreds of households, instead of saying, okay, we have trained millions of people.
Right.
For us, it doesn't make sense, because training them, if we don't know if they're using it, if they have changed their life, we're wasting our energy, we're wasting their energy, we're wasting resources. You know, it doesn't make sense. So we do want to stay through a long process to make sure it's sustainable, because it's an investment. It's not a one-shot thing. And that's costly, and it's a little bit hard to convince, because numbers please people, and we don't always have the numbers. I think that's our challenge number one, is to make those who can support us financially to make them understand that working on a group of people and making sure they have sustainably gone to another phase and they don't need any of us anymore is more important than like doing millions. And I understand that everyone has their own agenda in different manners. There's a reason they do provide that financial support, and sometimes it doesn't align with our way of seeing things. That's our challenge number one. Another challenge is also working with communities that have lived through the Ethiopian charity/development world, and who do always expect something from you. So it takes time to, sometimes even after a long time, after a year they stayed with us, still at some point you hear them say, but can you buy something for my child? And I'm like, no. Like, we're doing this so that you don't need us to do it. So that sometimes it's frustrating. But as I was saying earlier, we have come to a point where we accept that we cannot change everybody's mind. And also, I would say another challenge is we have to be innovative enough and have to find solutions to do the work that we do in a broader manner, to reach out to more people, but in the way that we want to work, you know? So bringing that together, it's hard. So we have to always play on the situation where you want real impact, but you want to grow, reach out to more people, do more programs, because as I was telling you, we first started with 2 components, and we see the problem, and we see the people, and we see the solutions that we can bring, and we grow. And even on those, the same people, but at the same time, like, we're diversifying what we do so that we can bring something, you know, impactful. So we have to be careful not to spread too much, to stay focused while doing quality work. So that's like finding the right balance in all this is, I think, one of our main challenges.
Do you know what percentage of of women that have actually followed everything you've said and have actually succeeded and are living a life out of the poverty?
Very honestly speaking, you cannot like put it in percentage because it depends. Some of them, for example, have now jobs, a sustainable income every month, etc., but might not be fully applying what you taught them in nutrition and health. Some of them are trying to apply the most they can, but not like sustaining in the enterprise part, because the enterprise part with the kind of capital that we can bring today is a group work, and not everybody's done for group work. And we cannot have the capacity today to give individual businesses.
Right.
So that's some of them, they're pulled out of their economic empowerment part, but doesn't mean that they don't apply what we told them. And then there's also the social empowerment part that's actually quite challenging. Some families, we have been able, thanks to God, to solve almost completely the household violence situations.
Okay.
But maybe we haven't brought the income as, you know what I mean? So I would not be able to give you a percentage of, okay, these ones are perfectly gone, you know, so it really depends what you're talking about.
What is the best way to empower women?
I think that the best way to empower women is to listen to what they are telling us, to listen to their issues, because from their context, from the context of this woman and that woman is not even the same.
It's not the same.
Exactly. However, we can, of course, have common issues, and the one that we're currently working on is the issue of childcare. The issue of childcare, we cannot be sitting and talking like this if our children were running all over the place. Obviously, we've had, I mean, as mothers, I do really understand that a safe and a good place to leave my child is also a manner for me to work, to bring something to my household, to fulfilled as a woman, as a person. So childcare is something that we're trying to bring, for example, for the women. So I named this example, but one example among others is to say that we have to empower women, we have to listen to their problems and bring solutions to those. And it can be economic, it can be life free of violence, it can be childcare, it can be even work that takes into account that you have a family, you know? So all those things together may bring sustainable change for the women empowerment.
Because I feel like empower women, and I'm talking as a nation, because as a nation, I think all of our women need empowerment.
Exactly.
So I feel like if women are empowered, a country also is empowered.
Actually, there are many studies that show that, actually, in different aspects. Even if we talk about economic empowerment, when you do empower women economically, what it brings to the household is much bigger than what it is to empower the man. In regards to income, I'm not saying like we need them. I am not preaching at all this divisive way, but the investing on the economic empowerment of women brings so much to the household than it does when it's a man.
When it's just, yes, because it also changes the community.
And also the attention they have for their household and the level on their priority list is a bit different.
Well, we're coming to the end of our questions. I have two for you, and this is really about you. What do you find rewarding about your job?
The day-to-day is hard. So I don't find satisfaction in my day-to-day work, to be very honest. Actually, first is a lot my husband, because he said, I thought this is what you want to do.
I know, right?
Like, it is what I want to do. But the day-to-day is hard, because as I was saying, like working in a sustainable manner, it doesn't bring change tomorrow. It's not a day-to-day thing. It's not like feeding someone in the streets and feeling happy about it. It's not the same thing. So, but thinking that we're trying to bring sustainable solutions. Let me come back to the children's center idea. To be honest, the first time I did my needs assessment in the north of Addis Ababa in the Toto area that I told you about earlier is the day I knew that we had to work on daycares, because the women, all of them had babies, and they were looking at me and they're like, how do you expect us to work with this? Like, And they are so right, you know? So, for example, what you're trying to bring with the Children's Center is to pilot first. It's not even like a one-shot thing. Even that, we're trying to pilot a system where, well, first we work with the government, with the public health center, so that it's under their jurisdiction. Once the project is finished, it can be sustained. That's the first thing. In the center, there's going to be, we're not going to work only on healing sick children, but preventing malnutrition. Okay, so once they're sick, when they're almost, you know, diminished, it's not point. So we're trying to prevent it and see it before it happens. Malnutrition, development, lateness, you know, also even mental development. Second and third one, in the same children's centers, there's going to be a childcare area where the mothers or the parents, actually the fathers can be also, parents are coming on a rolling basis to come keep their children. Okay, so that makes it, at the same time, reduce whatever you need to sustain that childcare system because they're supporting in kind. At the same time, they're seeing there by professionals how it's done so that they can do the same thing at home. So they're doing it on their other children, etc., etc. So the way we have designed it this way is to make sure that once our project is finished, they don't need us anymore.
Right.
Okay? And by showing that such systems, of course, at the first shot, is not going to be perfect. We're going to have to adjust a few things. But by showing that we can bring sustainable solutions to the community's needs in such a manner, my dream would be to have such centers in every Tena Tabia, in every public health center, in everywhere in Ethiopia.
Absolutely.
So what makes me keep on going and what brings satisfaction to me is thinking that what it could be, you know, because I know that we're working on solving problems that they have told us. We're not inventing it.
Right.
Okay? So knowing that we're bringing solutions to that, we're working on a solution not only for today, for this mother, but for mothers to come, for generations to come, is something that keeps the light on in our heart and makes us continue.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that you brought it up because remember I was telling you earlier about the street girls that have, I spoke to one of the girls and one thing I asked her is, why aren't you working? And she said, baby, I can't, where can I put my child?
Exactly.
I have no place to put my child. Therefore, I have to carry her. I would have loved to call. I have a job.
Exactly.
She said, I have a job, but I don't know where to put my child.
Exactly.
And the same issue with my sister. My sister also has a center. And she ended up opening a center for the mothers to bring in and keep their children.
Exactly.
So that's a key. So this is where your holistic children's center comes in.
Exactly.
I wish you the best of luck for you to open that.
Thank you so much.
Because it is needed.
It's almost there.
It's needed. Yes. So my last question is, actually it's going to be my second last. How do you stay motivated?
Yeah, by thinking about that, by thinking of what it could be. But no, also I have like an amazing team. I really, like sometimes I feel so lucky for the team that I have because there are days I have to call them to give me motivation.
Right.
There are days where like I feel down, they pick me up. They feel down, I pick them up. So I think having them has been really oxygen at times where it was hard. And somehow they so believe in it. Like sometimes I don't want to disappoint them either, you know, like I want to make sure that we're going to achieve this, you know, because when we talk about this thing that I just told you about the economic empowerment, what it became in the time, like we did this together, you know, like we're sitting and saying, okay, this happened. When we started gender-based violence work, for example, it was not at all in our agenda.
Right.
And one day things happened. I cannot tell like the details of the story here, but and we looked at each other and we're like, are we going to see this happen to our women or are we going to do something about it? And it started from there. And now we have different programs. We work with the men to prevent it. We work with the women to welcome them when they have issues, a counseling service. And we're working also with other partners like the French Embassy to bring protocols so that once the violence happens, they're taken care of properly. So those things, like we're always working on things that do matter to us, to the team, and everybody's bringing something on the table for that. So that keeps the motivation on because we're not alone in this.
Absolutely. And I guess when you go into a situation or not even a situation, but you're trying to support or help these families, and then you find out all these underlying things that cannot help you with what you're trying to do. So you have to resolve that situation and then come back to this.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's what keeps the motivation, because you like you cannot like go like I'm tired. That's not even an option.
It's beautiful. So my last question to you is, you've started this NGO and you have discovered a lot of things you probably had no idea even existed, even as a mother.
Yes.
So I would like you to just, I don't want to say advice, but just for people like me that are not in that business or in that world, to tell us how to keep our eyes open and how we can support each other as women when we see women on the streets that are having issues. I just need you to tell us what we should do or how we can help.
I would start by saying, first, don't be afraid to start.
Right.
Do something. I was telling you earlier about an association we created when I was back in France with my husband, where we sponsored kids to go to school, right? I think it's been a long time, over 10 years. I think in total, maybe we have supported 15 children. But, and so what? You know, it's like one life is enough to change.
Absolutely.
Okay? So for me, it was not enough, so I did something else. But what I'm trying to say is the person that finished the university and she has a double degree now, and, you know, when I see her, like, if we were not there, she wouldn't have done this.
Right.
You know, so for the outsiders, like not in this industry of development or charity work, just pick your cause. Whatever like brings something to your heart. It can be taking care of someone who's sick. It can be financial support. It can be helping them raise their child properly. Whatever rings really something to your passions, and start doing with one person. Just do it. And with that one person, talk to them. Don't do what you think is right for them. Because I think you said it earlier, you know, you don't go implement something and expect them to use it, to want it, or to know how to use it. Ask them, talk with them. Because when we give education, we always tell them, as much as you learn from us, we learn a lot of things from you. So by just sitting and talking with them, we learn a lot of things about their needs, their challenges, what's really out there happening, you know. So pick the person, pick your passion, talk with them, and from what they tell you, try to do your best and be happy with that.
I thank you very much for coming to our studio
and having
this conversation with us, and I wish you the best in the future. And if you ever need any help, we're all here.
Thank you so much for having me for this wonderful and simple conversation. I enjoyed my time with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for tuning in. This is your show Afreeqa with your host Qatsalaworq Seifu. We will be on air on Saturdays from 4 to 5 on Arts TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you.